Salut tout le monde, Richard Nutzel fan ici, bringing you guys an old school album review, and this is the last album I have to cover until I'm pretty much caught up and up until their new album, which comes out at the end of the month. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be talking about Lefant Sauvage by Gojira, the band's fifth album released in June of 2012 through Roadrunner Records, and this is actually, I believe, their first album they did for the label. Let's just dive right into this fifth album, and this was pretty much the first gap of between 4 years since their previous album, The Way of All Flesh, which I think, in my opinion, is probably my second or favorite Gojira album. But I feel like that album, you could definitely tell they had like a little bit of a change, but I feel like they really changed it up a little bit, or to start off their change with this album, Lefant Sauvage. Like, I feel like this album, they've done a lot of things like differently, like musically, vocally, and stuff. And musically, there's like different styles. Like, they have like some moments where they sound like groove metal, then it's just stuff where they sound death metal, and even a little bit like sludgy elements into their sound. And let's just dive right into it. Let's just talk about like the vocals. Like, I feel like Joe Duplantier's vocals have changed a lot. In fact, he does like a really interesting thing. Like, he has like harsh vocals, but he also has like harsh singing. The way it's hard to describe, it has like harsh singing, but it also has like harsh to it. It has like kind of like to it, which makes it really unique, which I honestly haven't heard really any band that does that. And it's just hard to describe it. I just think that they definitely try to make themselves unique and not try to be different from like any other bands. Then the guitar work is tight. Joe and Andre Christian, and just come up with some great guitar playing. There's some like chuggy moments and just some really sick just guitar playing is freaking insane. The bass on this album I kind of wish was a little bit audible. I really wish you could hear it a little bit. And just what can I say about the drums? Mario Duplantier's drumming is, in my opinion, I think he's one of the best drummers in metal going right now. So yeah, let's just dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Explosia, which has one of the most amazing riffs from an album opener I've ever heard. It starts with some really sick tremolo picking, and it just continues with like a mid-tempo riff, which makes you just bang your head. And the drums are pretty great, and you definitely feel the energy of Mario. And Joe roars all over this, and his vocals have like a mix of singing with really harsh tones of a death growl. And this song pretty much has two interludes, sort of like the main riff and the second guitar sort of like playing a slow tune over it. And the outro is long with the riff continuing till the end for almost 2 minutes. And I think it's a great way to start off this album. Then next up is the title track, Lefant Sauvage. And also, before I know, it's actually French for the wild child, and I should probably know this. I actually just looked it up. I mean, I only know a little bit of French. I mean, obviously, I introduced myself in the video in French to talk about a French band. But anyway, moving on to the song, it's just an absolute assault right from the get-go, from the moment it starts. And this pretty much continues after what Explosia is kind of like riff structure. And Mario is just amazing here. It just builds up a lot of tension in this song by the way he drums. And this song is pretty much around 4 minutes long, and it just gets over before you just expect more. But I do think the guitars are a little bit dull in this song. But overall, I feel like it's a good track, but just does nothing more. Next up is The Axe. It's the next track, and I honestly, for me, I didn't really like this one. It sounds a little bit like Explosia, except for the drumming, but it just doesn't really stick out for me. Nothing special. Liquid Fire, which starts off somewhat like The Axe, and I was expecting something kind of like, oh boy, here we go. But the melody in this song just really catches out, and it turns out quite different. And there's also a little bit of like a weird like effect in the chorus a little bit. And this song drags a little bit, but it's still one of the best tracks on the album. Next up is The Wild Healer, which is actually an instrumental filler, and the mood sort of like goes totally off after listening to it. It sounds like a little bit like a happy jingle played on a lead, and I don't even know why they pretty much included it in there. Here, next up is Planned Obsolescence. I can't, probably fucked it up, but yeah, it just has some of the best drumming in the whole album and just some amazing riffs. And it's quite groovy, but the weird vocals are kind of weird. I don't know, I probably said weird twice, but the song has like different parts, and it's broken down, and it just works. Although there's like a 40-second gap at the end for just weird, but apart from that, it's pretty much one of the best songs on here. Moving on to Mouth of Kala, which is another amazing song, and it pretty much brought me to the conclusion that this is the better half of the album, that we got to the best part right here. And the vocal melodies here are really good, and Mario kind of like slows down here at times, but it just blends perfectly with the riffs. And again, there's like a really great outro with some insane drumming and some nice grooves. The Gift of Guilt, which is, in my opinion, probably my favorite song from Lefant Sauvage. The intro is just a minute-long, simple-sounding lead, which just continues throughout the chorus. And there's like a chord progression, and sort of like down-tuned guitars are enough to just take the bar up higher than anything else on this album. And it has enough headbanging moments. I just love sort of like the sudden tempo changes more than any of the songs. And this song finishes with an intro lead playing again. And this song is performed like for Gojira from Encores, and I just really can't wait to see them again. I'm really hoping to see them in September with Deftones, so fingers crossed that happens. Next up is Pain is a Master. So it starts off with very like a somber lead, and it has a little bit of a tragic tone to it. And this song kind of like screams like depression as far as the chorus goes. And the vocals here are the standout due to sort of like the high range that Joe reaches, which is moving on to Born in Winter, which kind of like features like a low-key kind of like throaty clean vocal from Joe. And this song is kind of similar to Pain is a Master as far as like the structure is, but it's quite repetitive, but I don't really mind it. And then we close everything with The Fall, which is, I honestly feel like this doesn't sound like a Gojira song. I mean, it's a good metal song, but it just doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of the album. Although I feel like Joe's harsh singing doesn't really match with the track, but I would prefer him growling throughout the song. It's not like quite like the album closer I would have preferred to honestly give to Guilt to take its place, but nevertheless, it's a listenable track. Now overall, Lefant Sauvage by Gojira is a pretty solid album. Pretty much, in my opinion, would be one of my favorites of 2012 if I had like an album list for that time. So yeah, if I'm going to give this album a score, I'm going to give Lefant Sauvage by Gojira a solid 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal. Till merci beaucoup.